You're listening to Home Sweet Home with Russ, McClellan, and friends. And here's Russ.
Welcome back to Home Sweet Home with Russ McClellan and Emily Ostrom. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Hey, good. We've been talking a little bit about Leavenworth, about how you got into real estate from being a server, bartender, and now here you go. You're locking and loading, selling lots of properties, working with lots of clients. Leavenworth is your area of specialty, although you go north, you go south, you go east, you go west. You are really poised to be able to do a lot of things coming from Kirkland to Leavenworth. But wow, in the last couple of years, this short-term alliance, this concept of restriction, governmental regulation, and boy, was that a hot topic for a couple of years, right?
Yeah, it really got hot in the last few months with everything that they've been going through and deciding.
Yeah, and I grew up in Lake Chelan Valley, and I have my team's based out of Lake Chelan, the Frontline team, which is also powered by Keller Williams. So we felt it too, right? That's a big
Absolutely.
topic, vacation rentals. And what we're talking about, for those that don't know, in the unincorporated areas of Chelan County, the government has incorporated a new, now tell me if I'm wrong because you're very versed in this, a new code adoption that has all kinds of loveliness as it relates to short-term rentals. Now, the reason it was such a hot topic, like most hot topics in today's world, there's two sides to the coin.
Yep.
So I would love to hear your perception or your take on, first of all, what is it? Because there's a lot of rumors out there, and what is it, and where can people find it, you think?
So it is short-term rental. I mean, they have a moratorium in place right now, which doesn't allow new changes to existing or transfers of any existing short-term rentals. And you can find information if you just Google Chelan County STR or short-term rental. The first link there will bring you to the page that has all of the documents, all of the meeting notes, all of the public comments. There's a ton of information, and you can kind of get lost in it a little bit. But the main links are at the very top of the page.
Okay. From your information and perspective, what is it? What's the goal of this?
The goal is to limit the amount of short-term rentals in neighborhoods throughout Chelan County.
Right. So basically it started, and tell me if I'm not on the right spot here, but it basically started because of the lack of regulation, kind of like it was the wild, wild west, where you would have a couple retire, buy a place, nice, peaceful, tranquil location. Then maybe somebody buys a place next door. There's no regulations. All of a sudden, there's a frat party moving in every week.
Yep.
They're doing all kinds of fun things that frat parties do, taking it to the extreme example, and nobody had any accountability.
Right. There were some codes in place, but there was no one to enforce them. That was the biggest problem. The people who moved over here, years and years and years ago, or they bought their vacation rental while they were still working, have now retired and moved over here full time. They want to keep that peace and quiet. They don't want the liability, especially, if they're on Lake Wenatchee, they've got a dock, there's a short-term rental next door. Those people decide to go out on the dock. Let's say one slips and breaks their leg. That owner is liable for that. And so there was a lot of voicing of opinions that this is not okay. With the ability to now work remotely, there's a lot of people coming from the west side who want to supplement their mortgage with a short-term rental. It's not like back in the day when you could live off of one income and have a vacation rental as well. They have to find a way to be able to do both. And most of them that I've spoken to have decided that, once they're done with their job, they want to retire over here, and they want that neighborhood and quiet and peaceful atmosphere.
Yeah, so I have a lot of friends that have done the same thing in Chelan that are, through COVID, their second homes are now their primary residences, right? So
Yeah.
I also have seen a lot more, for the first time in my 30-year career, I'm selling to primary resident buyers.
Yeah, it is switched now with the moratorium in place and these new codes that are going to be taking place on the 27th. I've seen a lot more owner-occupied sales than I have actual short-term rental, investors.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the schools grow, In my 30-year career, I mean, 90% of my buyers, at least for the last 20 years in Chelan, have been investors, retirees, or second homeowner, recreational type buyers.
Yeah.
So for the first time, we got this opportunity where people are coming over with bucket loads of money because they're tapping their equity in their primary on the west side of the mountain. So they're coming over with $500,000 or more in the bank, ready to put down cash, and they're making $250,000 in a W-2 at their day job.
Yeah.
Where, like I said earlier, 2 years ago, the employer probably wasn't as excited about letting them work anywhere they felt like it.
Yeah.
Now what I'm seeing, and I have a lot of friends in technology businesses on the west side, but remember, this isn't only about tech. This is crossover into insurance and attorneys and yoga instructors and medical. So the phenomenon, the forced adoption of the technology, which was derived or a derivative of COVID, where companies had no choice if they were going to stay in business, they had to do this work remote.
Yeah.
I think in the beginning, I don't know how you feel, but I think in the beginning, most employers were like, okay, temporarily, we're going to let you do this so we can get through this world pandemic thing, which we haven't seen for 100 years. And nobody really knows what to do because it's not like we can go to a mentor and go, hey, what'd you do in the last world pandemic? How'd you handle your business decisions?
Right.
I know I get judged a little bit here and there from things I've done. And I'm like, well, it's not like I can just look it up. How do we do this? It's all new. And then it changes, right? Right when you think you got a handle on masks, boom, there's masks again. But I do see that's going to change the game. And what I'm afraid of is that with so many supply constraints, whether it's infrastructure, topography, government regulations, zoning, lumber prices, you name it, the affordable housing crisis is still alive and well. And I personally don't see a lot change.
No, the short-term rentals are a very small part of the housing crisis that we're seeing right now. Lumber was a huge one. Luckily, it's slowly going down now. The lack of available homes. There was a well moratorium in the state for a long time.
Hearst decision, yeah.
Yep, that limited, the building, and so that just kind of set us back even further. So
it's interesting. It all comes down to this supply and demand thing.
Yep.
Got 100 donuts and 2 kindergartners. You don't have to, donuts aren't that much money. You got 100 kindergartens and 1 donut, they're going to fight for that donut. Whoever's got the most little coins in their pocket buys the donut, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think unless we put tanks at the tunnel and tanks at the borders of our county, we're going to be able to stop the flow of people. So, I love this, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic very much, but a little bit, I guess. Those people that have a problem for every solution, that basically just bitch to bitch, right?
Yeah.
There's so much of that out there where, my opinion is the gospel, and be damned if you don't agree with me, versus this conversation. Like, we could sometimes have a common interest. Let's say the short-term rental. I love the people that at least try to find common ground.
Yes.
And then they go, okay, now we can have differences of opinion on this and this, but there is something that is a basis for agreement. Boy, oh boy, with social media and the armchair quarterbacking, I've never seen anything like it. It's like, wow, everybody's a god.
Yeah, it's very generational. I think most of the people that are anti-STR have, been around a long time, and they're seeing all these changes, and it's sort of panicking them. Wenatchee is one of the fastest growing cities in the state. It's happening everywhere. It's being able to recognize both sides and then try to find a common ground is really important with something like this.
Yeah, I mean, true empathy is a lost art.
Yes.
But I get it. Like I said, I'm one of those old guys, right? I'm 52. I joke around. My dad passed away last year, and I said, he graduated high school in 1952. That was a good year for him. I bet he wanted it to go back to 1952. Well, I graduated high school in 1987 in Manson. I liked Manson in 1987. That was a great place to grow up. So if I could wave a magic wand, would I like to go back in time?
Absolutely.
I think I would.
I would too, and I was born in 83, so.
Yeah, right, yeah. So that's what's fun about real estate too, man. What a great diversified group of people. And one of the things I know for sure is that we're always smarter as a collective. And you said it, generational, but we can learn from each other. And that, in the next topic, maybe we'll get into Keller Williams and the culture of that, because I'm learning from you and everybody else every day, and hopefully I can add some experience through scar tissue. I call it wisdom through scar tissue, right?
Yeah.
That's what experience brings you.
Yeah.
But back to this point, like, it is difficult to think that our town is changing and we want to stop demand versus the idea that maybe balancing the market with supply, or what I call smart growth, versus no growth mentality. You know, the funny thing to me is this: how many people have you heard say, "Those darn developers, they're ruining the world, those 206ers," you know? And
Yep, those West Siders.
yeah, and I don't want any development in my backyard. And then they're like, "Why do we have an affordable housing crisis?" Like,
Exactly.
well, there's no supply. Like,
Yeah.
really, like, we got to build houses somewhere,
Yeah.
or we got to close the borders. So which one do you want to do?
Well, or stop having babies.
yeah, stop having babies.
Unfortunately, that's the problem, is that, you know, we're always growing. It's never gonna end, and there needs to be a way to safely and gradually help with that.
Yeah, it's a very divisive topic, and I definitely see both sides of the coin because I'm in real estate. I grew up on a farm in Manson, and I get it because I've been a part of that change for a long time. Right, I've helped promote it. So I see why people for sure want to get some controls. I get it. Let me come back in the next segment, Emily. We kind of finished talking about this, and I love your take because you're a very level-headed person that works very, very hard for your clients. So if you want to get a hold of Emily and talk to her about anything, her number is 425-922-0317. Okay, now that you got a pen. 425-922-0317. Emily Ostrom. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Keller Williams.